Okay, which side of the equation is it for you? Are you on the side where your brain is locked in fear and worry and anxiety? Or are you on the side where you've resolved all of that and you're in the place of freedom and of expression? Now, one of the big things, I think the big thing that I realized in the 1980s, well, actually, no, that's not true. I couldn't figure it out in the 1980s and the 1990s, but when I stumbled into personal development into the year 2020, that's when it's like, the penny dropped. I'm someone who was terrified of public speaking right up until the age of 32. And in the 80s and 90s, I did countless courses, presentation skills, public speaking, communication skills. So I knew all the stuff. I had all the theory. I knew how to stand. I remember this is back in the day. So I knew how to place my acetates on the projector thingy and put my little negatives into the carousel slider and all of that stuff. I knew how to breathe. I knew how to, well, back in those days, how to ideally structure a presentation and all of the stuff. Still couldn't do it. Still couldn't do it. Still locked up in fear, anxiety. And when I got into personal development, I realized that one big piece of the puzzle that was missing was addressing what was happening with my brain and my neurology. Because oftentimes, if you do not like public speaking, whether that's large audiences, small groups, one to one, whatever it is for you, the brain is all often locked and bound in fear, old patterns, negative emotions, limiting beliefs. And until you break free of those, you can have all the information in the world, but it will be really challenging. And for me, nigh on impossible to actually put all of that great information into practice. So you can head on over to this blog, have a play with the slider. It's a bit of fun, I do like a little bit of creativity. I'll give you the long URL and then I'll give you the short way to find this information. So long URL is transformations.exposure.co/transform, TRANCE. So transform dash your dash public dash speaking dash skills dash today dash with dash Marilyn dash Devonish. That's a bit of a mouthful. Quickest way to find the info that I'm talking about is go to my main website, transformationstm.com. I will spell that for you. TRANCE, as in hypnotic trance. So TRANCE, F for Freddy, so FORMATIONS. tm.com, so transformationstm.com. Click on the red watch new button, should be top right for most devices. A panel will slide out and you'll see then what's going on. If you're watching this in real time, this image that you're seeing here, I'll place it somewhere near it'll be at the top, but if it's a couple of days hence, then have a little bit of a scroll, you'll find this. So I'll put the information here. The workshop program that I'm talking about today, because the launch price is coming to an end next week, is the Fearless Public Speaking 1-day intensive. In terms of this particular blog that I'm on, what I've done is I've put together some starter questions for you so you can start identifying what are the blocks and barriers for you, what are the things that will keep you in brain lock. So I've added some of the questions here as a slide. I've also got some things for you to think about here in terms of answering these questions and just noticing what you notice about your answer. So what do you do if you freeze on stage? What would you do if you were live on stage, you forgot your presentation or you lose track? What if you're in a position where you are there, it's lights, camera, action time? What would you do if you're overcome by nerves, anxiety, stage fright? So go through these questions because these are going to help you benchmark your starting point. I've also addressed some of the things that, because I did a pre-launch survey when I was doing the bigger Fearless Public Speaking program. And I also addressed some of the things that people said were big issues. One of the big things was getting over that sense that all eyes are on you, because they are. If you are the speaker and you might not be leading them, let's say you're not leading the meeting, you may not be standing up on a big stage in front of thousands of people or doing live TV or live radio. It may just be a Zoom meeting. However, when it is your turn to speak, all eyes, if you've got your camera on, but all ears are most definitely on you. And I know that's one of the things that used to terrify me. It's one of the things that have terrified clients before they've worked with me, I hasten to add. So during the one-day workshop, I share practical strategies and tips and ideas. So there are 8 strategies, for example, for remembering your presentation, because that's a big deal for people. I take you through the 5-minute presentation preparation and mapping process, where you go from blank sheet of paper to mapping out the foundation of your presentation in just 5 minutes. Yes, I said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I also talk about things like the impact of body language, how it can either work for you or against you. The opening and closing of your presentation is absolutely key. So we talk about how to construct that, and also how to connect with large audiences. And with the blank sheet of paper exercise, this is something I've been teaching since 2001. Most recently at the University of Oxford, well, I say most recently outside of running the workshops and coaching, but I've been coaching at the University of Oxford for a couple of years, coaching their fellows who are doing a business, their degrees. And they invited me to travel to Oxford and run a presentation skills masterclass. I did the 5-minute exercise there. So that's here. So everyone was given a blank sheet of paper, a pen. I started my stopwatch. At the end of 5 minutes, I said, okay, stop writing. And then I invited the fellows to come up on stage one by one, deliver their presentation. They were all flawless. And they're in their early 20s, so they do not yet all have all the life experience and all of that. So if they can do it, you can most certainly do it, particularly if you're a similar age to me and watching this. And so when I say the stage, we were at Keyboard Chapel, so that's me in the green there. So they were coming up onto the altar. Also, in terms of this presentation, one of the things people often talk about is, okay, how do you connect to large audiences where there are thousands of people there? So I talked to you about ways that you can do that. This picture here on the bottom left, that pink dot is me on stage delivering a presentation for, where was I, Psychology's magazine. That was at Kensington Olympia in London. There were thousands of people there. And I remember at the end, somebody who was sitting right at the back, because it was standing room only in the end, it was really empty when I started talking. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going down well. And then within a couple of minutes, vroom, and people were blocking the aisles and everything. It was amazing. Somebody came up from the back and they said, I felt like you were talking directly to me. So I will share with you the strategies for being able to do that. I've also had a similar thing where I've been talking online to 5,000 people, and I've had people say exactly the same thing, even when I was not speaking in their first language, and we had translators translating what I was saying into French and Spanish, etc. I also take you through a timeline therapy process, because it's cool to put your goals into the timeline. Now, in terms of the pricing, ignore the £76.97. That was the pre-launch price, so that has expired. We're now in the 115 UK pounds, or $147. That's the launch price that's currently on. When that expires next week, we're in August 2023 at the present time. So this expires on the 29th of August. It will then go up to the Book It Now price, which is the $597. So if improving your presentation skills, your public speaking, your communication skills, and you don't always have to be someone who is going to be speaking on stage. I've used exactly the same processes and techniques for people who are attending interviews. And as it happens, someone who completed the Fearless Public Speaking program and attended the one-day intensive I think the interview was about 2 weeks ago, had an interview, used the processes that I've been teaching, sailed through it. So you may not be speaking, presenting, you may not be on stage, you might not be doing what I'm doing, live television, live radio, often at very short notice. However, being able to clearly communicate in this world is massively important. And what we're talking about here on this workshop, you can use it for your verbal communication. You can also use it to help you structure the way you write and the way you present in that way as well. So I've outlined here, format is video webinar, it's on demand. Now, I say it's on demand. If you're booking directly through the webinar platform, it's absolutely on demand. You'll be in within seconds. If you're using this page, they're not joined up. So when you book, I then have to go and add you to the webinar platform. So I'm going to say, be patient, give it a couple of hours. If you're booking in the middle of the night, you're in America, let's say, or in Australia and I'm in bed, then, give it a few hours. I do occasionally sleep. But it's on demand, so you choose when you watch it. Running time is 9 hours and 16 minutes. Let's shave an hour or so off because we do have breaks during the workshop, talking about things like how to calm your nerves and anxiety, the 5-minute presentation mapping process. We've got an access consciousness belief change session. We do a HUNA energy clearing. I share 6 strategies for you to validate your ideas, because before you go all in to create a presentation, you want to make sure it's the right one. As I said, talked about how to improve your memory and recall. I share 9 strategies for audience engagement and connection. We talk about body language, physiology, how to make sure what you're doing works with you and for you rather than against you. I also share the essential checklist that I put together for both presenting in person and presenting online. We break down the anatomy of a presentation, the good ways that you can structure it so you're going to connect with your audiences on different levels. Built into the program, there are the presentation practice sessions. You'll also get the access to the VIP practice theatre. I'll talk about that and I'll show it to you I'll show you a screenshot in a few moments. Talk about how to bring your presentation to life. And there's a quick fire Q&A round, because when I was putting the Fearless Public Speaking program together, now the program is modular. There are PDF guides, there are checklists, there are infographic sheets, all of that sort of stuff. There are little very quick audios, mini videos, etc. When I was putting that together earlier this year, I did some surveys with people, because I wanted to find out where everyone's at, and of the gazillion things I could include, what's going to be the most relevant. I also had a number of questions from people. So what I've done in this program, and in more detail in the Fearless Public Speaking program, is I go through some of the most common questions and I answer those. So things like, how do you recover from brain freeze? How do you connect with your audiences, be they large audiences or small audiences? Because some people are scared of large audiences. Others are afraid of small, intimate audiences, because really you can feel, you can actually see everyone's faces. So we'll talk about that. How to recover if you forget your presentation, what you can do if you get off track. All of those we cover, I give you the answers to those. And my overall thing is how to go from being fearful to actually enjoying being on stage. And I've got one of the participants, when we first started the program, because I was saying to everyone, okay, what's your outcome? What's your goal? What would you like to achieve? And they said they want to go live on social media. And I said, well, hold on a minute. You're already posting videos on social media, so I can't let you get away with that. We need a next level. And they said, oh, no. I do put videos on social media, but they're never live. They pre-record until and then the final version goes up. And so that afternoon, well, after we'd finished running the workshop, they did their first live stream, as in they press play, bang, went live on social media. And that's how they've been doing it ever since, and absolutely loving it. So that's the sort of thing I'm talking about. Now, this is the virtual practice room. So when you log in here, this is the VIP space. It's only for people doing the Fearless Public Speaking program or the 1-day intensive. I've put a timer here so you can time your presentation. I've also put a video in. Now the video has no sound. It's it's little prompts in terms of the presentation mapping process. This reminds you of the key points and allows you to, at a glance, see the time, at a glance, see the next piece that you're delivering. Very simple, just a few words on the slides, nothing distracting. And then you have these, and people have been into the theatre and says, oh my gosh, I know it's like a metaverse space, but they've actually felt like they're on stage, which is just amazing, and why I've designed it. So you just click on one of the dots. So ideally, click yourself here. Now, if you go into the room and someone else is already in here, just click one of the other dots and you can still use all the. And now the cool thing about this, if you could have 20 people here at the same time, you can all be using the timer simultaneously and independently. You can all be watching the video simultaneously and independently. So long as your microphone is switched off, no one can hear what you're saying. And if you have your camera switched off, they can't see you. All they will see is your photograph or the cartoon avatar that you've chosen. But you can all be using the same timer, watching the same video, being in the same space, but you're all doing that independently. And of course, if you're in there, you say to someone, hey, would you mind listening to my presentation? Put your microphone on, go for it. But I've designed this so that every your practice space. So that's all in there. And of course, we talk about some of my client success stories. This is a wonderful Erica Brodnok, for example. She had attended my photo reading workshop and completed my Magic and Gratitude program. And around that time, she'd been invited to, so didn't have to apply, she was invited to do a TED talk. She was petrified. So we did some work around the presenting public speaking. She is now an award-winning speaker. She's one of the best speakers I know. Blows the doors off the place every single time and has won awards around the world. So, you see people holding those big checks. Erica has tons of those photos for her pitching, for her presenting. She is amazing. So that's a little of what to expect. I've also got an intro video here where I've answered some of the questions about the workshop, how it's structured, what's included, so you can press play there. There's some information about the wider Fearless Public Speaking program itself, a little bit about me for those of you I've never met before, sorts of things I do. I do live TV, live radio. I write for newspapers and magazines, been doing that since, 2002/3. A little bit about my background as well, some of my specialist areas. And I've got one of my videos here with myself on the Self Show, for a live TV show about remote working. So that's a little bit, if you want to just see, I walk the talk, I do the things I say that I do. So that's one of my live TV experiences. How would I turn the volume down? Or otherwise, the notifications start pinging. There's an overview of the whole Fearless Public Speaking program. Yeah. Oh, yeah, this is cool. Do the speaker archetype quiz. It's free. You need to put your email address in if you want the wider report, but it gives you a little summary, but then it will email you some more detail, but that's up to you. It's the reason it's interesting and useful to know what your dominant speaker archetype is at the moment. I say at the moment because your archetypes can change. There are about 12 there are 12 baseline archetypes that using in this particular system. When you know what your archetype is, you can utilize it. And if you find yourself in a position where you're speaking to a group of people who do not share that archetype, once you know there are others, you have more flexibility in your range and your scope and your ability to adapt to your audience. So I definitely say complete this one. The link is there to complete the speaker archetype. Yeah, head on over, have a read at the top. Let's just scroll to the top. Oh, actually, is there a button there? Is that going to take me to the top? Anyway, I'm nearly there now. Nearly there. We're nearly there yet. So if you want to transform your public speaking skills today, I would say this is one of the most amazing ways to do it. You can do it in your own time. It's a one-day workshop. This is from Rachel. Now, this is the updated one-day Fearless Public Speaking video webinar workshop. I created one years ago. Rachel was one of the first people to go through it on demand, and she did the workshop while I was on holiday. So it was January 2020. I was in Gran Canaria with a friend of mine. Happened to be sitting by the pool, reading a Kindle thingy on my iPad, and a message bubble came up from Rachel saying, I've just spent the day with you. So I actually looked around the pool, oh my gosh, are Rachel and her family here? Because it was a family resort. So I looked around, couldn't see her. Then the next message comes in and it said that she was taking the workshop and felt as though we were in the room together. So I'm going to just very quickly read you what Rachel said, because this was on demand. I wasn't there. Rachel was in the UK. I was in Gran Canaria. And this is the result, because Rachel, this was in the January 2020, just before the world went into lockdown. And Rachel had a talk coming up. So Rachel says, for those of you who were asking me about my big talk in January and shared my joy that I was so happy with how it had gone, Marilyn Devonish is the awesome lady that enabled me to breathe, think, and talk all at the same time. And now you can do it too, exclamation mark. Whether you get nervous in social settings, on social media, speaking in one-to-one settings, small groups or big stages, these techniques work. I'm tapping into what I learned almost every single day now. What's holding you back from sharing your passions or knowledge? And that's Rachel CK, educator, natural life coach, awesome mama, and oil lover. Rachel does the doTERRA oils. So that was Rachel taking the workshop on her own. I was not even there. And that was the result. And that's a little picture there of Rachel on stage delivering the talk that she's referring to. And this was from someone who attended one of the very first webinars when I was launching the Fearless Public Speaking program a few years ago. Not a few years ago, it feels like a few years ago actually, but a few months ago. And they said, wow, wow, and wow. So grateful you did this webinar for us all. I've taken away that I can do this too when the time is right. And trust me, the time is now right, because this was, I think, the very first one. For those on my e-newsletter list, I did a free 1-hour webinar and to teach one of the modules. And that will be people who need to hear my story and message. The prop that we're talking about, props, the prop that came to my mind was a kettle. So it talks about that. Gosh, you need a reading with you soon. I'm manifesting it. Thank you so much for an absolute fab webinar. As I've written this, I feel like I've got a firework going off in my head. So that was really fantastic. So that was a wonderful Sita Jones. Yeah. And yeah, the people who used to loathe speaking absolutely love it now. So let's come back to where we started. Which side of the equation are you? Are you locked in fear and worry and anxiety? Are you in the place and the space where you now love public speaking? If so, welcome to my world. Isn't it fabulous? And it could just be that it's neither here nor there, but you want to improve your skills. You want to next level your skills. You want to improve your communication skills, clarity, creativity, whatever it may be for you. There is so much that we cover in this workshop. It's one of those ripple effect events. So it will be amazing to work with you if you are ready to transform your public speaking skills, your communication skills, be that in person or online. I would love to virtually work with you. That would be amazing. And it may be that this isn't necessarily something that you need, but if you are connected to someone and you know that they could benefit from this, it would be fantastic if you could share this link with them or share the workshop link. That would be fabulous. Now, in terms of going directly to the webinar site, actually, just so you don't have to go through me, I'll say it's bit.ly/fearless-public-speaking-intensive. So the bit.ly link will take you directly to the platform. As soon as you've completed the payment process, as I said, currently $147 for the next few days, you'll be straight into the webinar, and then you can take the class as you like. My suggestion, two things I might suggest as a starting point. Number one, if you have the time, roll your sleeves up, get your water, get your blank sheet of paper, have your pen handy, have some of your favorite snacks. Do the workshop like you're doing the workshop. Take a break when we take a break. Do the exercises when we do the exercises. Do the clearing processes when we do the clearing processes. Do the coaching questions when we do the coaching questions. Take your lunch when we have our lunch. Do it like a full immersive workshop. Second option, if you're on a busy schedule and you are okay to work with other things going on in the background, my suggestion would be have it playing in the background by osmosis. If that's what you're going to be doing, once you've purchased, send me an email and I will send you a little process that you can use to activate the brain to hear the things that it's going to be relevant for you to hear. But just have it on in the background so that by the time you sit down to do the actual workshop, that means a bit like doing a photo reading preview, you've got that first layer of familiarity. So that's that. Well, anyway, thank you so much for your time, for your attention, for watching, for listening. Thank you to everyone who's been through the Fearless Public Speaking program, for those of you who have attended the one-day workshop, and over the years, for those who have done things with me in person. If it wasn't for you, I would not be able to continue to do what I do. So thank you. Wishing you all a fabulous rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening. I will leave it there. Marilyn Devonish, the NeuroSuccess Coach from transformationstm.com, over and out.